So I'd like to present a case of a 67-year-old male with a complete right hemiplegia with absolutely no right arm function, with severe osteoarthritis in his left first carpometacarpal joint. Treatment elsewhere, the first operation was an insertion of a pyrodisc, which failed. The second operation was excision of the pyrodisc, trapeziectomy and LRTI, which failed. Third surgery was to excise residual trapezoid due to some residual scaphotrapezial arthritis. That failed. Fourth surgery to further remove trapezoid and osteophytes and put a tendon into position, and that failed. So we had 4 operations, completely failed, very painful thumb, and it was his only working hand. So the thumb had collapsed into descent on the first metacarpal on the scaphoid, had intermetacarpal impingement, pain on all activities. So the problem was to provide pain relief, to provide pinch and grip stability. Previous failures had failed because of ongoing use of his hand because he had no options. So how do we provide function and independence during the post-operative period and avoid further failures? So my solution was an intermetacarpal fusion between first and second metacarpals. However, this results in a very rigid first metacarpal. And so what is the ideal position for this fusion, and how do we address the high failure rate? How do we maintain some level of function and independence whilst recovering from surgery? So my solution was to apply a quadrilateral external fixator between the first and second metacarpals. And this could be adjusted. And so the patient returned every day and we adjusted the fixator until we found the correct position where the patient would have good grip and good pinch, and he was happy with the position. We then proceeded with a fusion using radial bone graft and compression screws, and guess what? That failed. So we then went ahead with a final attempt at fusion using iliac bone graft, compression plates, maintaining the external fixator, and this resulted in union of the intermetacarpal fusion at 5 months. So on the bottom right we see solid union. The metacarpal pins did fracture due to stress, but they lasted long enough for the union to unite. After that surgery, at 5 months, the patient had no pain, good grip, good pinch, good dexterity, and he maintained his independence throughout the procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berger. Lovely Friday morning. We have 5 minutes for questions. So my first question is, why did all these ops fail? First, the LRTI and descent. In your opinion, why did they fail?
I think they failed because despite splinting, he had to use his hand. And there are no splints that really stop axial compression when you pinch. And he had to look after himself. He had to eat and dress and clean, toilet. And there was no way he could not use his right hand, his left hand. So I think it was just because of ongoing necessary functions. Because the alternative was to go into a respite or nursing home where he is totally cared for without using his hand. And so I think, it was because of ongoing use, which is why we elected to try the external fixator, which is instant and rigid and would allow him some pinch and light activities.
Why did the external fixator fail at the first attempt?
I think it was technical, the radial bone graft, and I think small compression screws are just not adequate to provide good support. I think a bigger iliac crest, a trapezoidal iliac crest graft that fits in between the base of first and second was really the better option. As we saw, we had that fixator on for 5 months, which is really pushing the friendship. And as you saw in the last x-rays, the pins in the second metacarpal had actually stress fractured, but in enough time for the arthrodesis to consolidate.
Was he a smoker by any chance?
No.
Questions from the floor? Pankaj?
Dr. Berger, do you think we are doing more harm by trying to hold the first metacarpal in a potentially unstable position by external means, rather than just allowing it to subside to a stable position over the scaphoid?
The stable position on the scaphoid was scaphometacarpal osteoarthritis. So he still had pain with that metacarpal descending. Also with the multiple surgical procedures, had quite a lot of osteophyte formation, and there were spurs impinging on the second metacarpal. So I think letting it drop down as a failed suspensionplasty was not an option.
So in continuity with the same, when do you think whether the axial loading is causing the pain to the patient, or the first and second intermetacarpal arthritis is causing the pain to the patient? How do you differentiate?
Very hard to tell. They're both quite next to each other. I think it's hard to tell the difference.
So, sir, in that case, when would you replan for a redo suspensionplasty or for a first to second intermetacarpal fusion?
I think I'd always try a revision suspensionplasty first, removing osteophytes. I think it's still a good procedure, and even second time, I think it's a reasonable chance of success. But once you get to 2 failed suspensionplasties, I think intermetacarpal fusion is good. But if I were to do that again, I would use iliac crest graft, a big graft, compression plates, and immobilize. Now, if the patient has one good arm or another good arm, that's fine. But I think the intermetacarpal fusion is good. It's difficult getting the right position because it is incredibly rigid. Even a suspensionplasty, you do get some metacarpal movement.
Thank you.
The last question.
Thank you. HS Gong from Korea. The approach to decide the optimal position using the external fixator is brilliant, I think. So what's the final position different from the textbook-wise position of the CMC joint, or because every patient is different?
Every patient is different, and I think that was the key, because he didn't have another arm to compensate for that. So he needed, as he says, he wants to write, he has to grasp things, he has to eat and prepare food, and etc. So I think the fixator allowed us some way of giving him a reasonably good impression of what the position would be. We tried splinting first, and he came back and said, "Oh, this splint is great." But he had so much movement within the splint that it really didn't reflect what it would be like with an intermetacarpal fusion. So I think every person is individual, particularly if they've only got one arm. And so I think this is a technique of getting a bit of adjustment so the patient understands what is going to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Berger, for an incredible save.
Thank you.